What's happening, man? How you doing?
Good, good. My voice might be a little off. I might be sounding like I'm going through puberty again. So
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. For those
I project
those that are go ahead.
I projected my voice in class, and I was like,
The students were like, "Yo, what's going on
yeah.
here?"
I let them know. I was like, I went to a soccer game. We were both there. It was super fun.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
I just so happened to go to the area where all the crowd was just yelling the whole time.
It turns out I left at a good time, man. I
Yeah,
didn't realize they had lost 3-1 until I got home.
yeah. It was quite the. Everyone was still hyped, but yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It
yeah.
was live events are always
Nice.
fun like that. Even with
Yeah,
yeah. And I feel like soccer isn't super like people aren't super hard headed. I feel like when you go to like
yeah.
football, like that's more like you better be careful who
For
you're
the more
yelling for.
intense. Yep, yep.
Yeah.
Exactly,
Or even baseball a
exactly.
little bit too.
Yeah, yeah. Definitely a little bit of baseball, especially when it comes to like the Dodgers being in town.
Yeah, people get
But yeah,
passionate.
dude, man, it's just a game, you know? Like I get it. It sucks to lose, but I don't think you need to get all worked up about it. But anyway, that's
Yeah.
just me.
What can you do? What can you do? What are you gonna do? Get on the field? Good
I know,
luck.
I know, I know. But yeah, it's funny how I
421
think when
today.
421, I remember when we were at the game on Saturday, we were like, hey, we finished the week strong. 95, I think is where we were.
Both
And I
very
think
happy.
we were, I forget what the starting price was on Friday. I think it was like hovering around 350-ish, right?
Yeah.
345 to
Yeah, it was
350
like
day on Thursday. And then the next
mhm.
day we see this gap up to the 490, 495, 500-ish range. And then, we're at least the whole time I was thinking, what the heck is this? Is it really the algos kind of just deciding all of a sudden, hey, let's pile in,
Yeah.
despite no real sort of like hard, tangible catalysts popping up other than things that have been disclosed and talked about repeatedly for the last several weeks, you know?
Yeah.
And so I thought, what the heck is going on? And obviously yesterday morning, Monday morning, we finally get the answer. So it was,
I always feel
I
like
will,
when it blows up like that, I'm like,
yeah,
did people finally get it or what's going on?
that's the thing is like yeah, like, and if they do get it, who gets it and how do they kind of spread the news, so to speak? Because it can't just be one institution that, maybe it is one institution that just buys $1 billion worth of Tesla stock and expands their
Goes all in.
allocation, But so, maybe that will be the case once we actually see hard financials hit the P&L. But yeah, I thought that was interesting how finally, we see some good positive catalysts, impact the stock in a beneficial way for
Hmm.
shareholders. So it was nice to see Elon after numerous earnings calls stating how he believes that Tesla will be the most valuable company in the world someday. He's finally kind of letting his money talk. He's not just talking the talk; he's actually walking the walk. So,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely a
I
great
think
great way
he's
to start the week.
I think he's been like hibernating for so long. I feel like he's been talking about everything for so long. And we all know what's happening, but the issue, I think it's interesting that everything's happening right now, now that robotaxi is basically almost been solved. And like I'm sure he's always been working in the background and everything else, but I feel like now that it's right in everyone's faces is when Elon just shows up and is like, "We've been working on this forever, but now we have the proof. Here you go."
Well,
And
and
we
the
have
the thing too, as you were saying, is wanting to get Elon wanting to get $1 billion in the stock, increase his total ownership a little bit. I think it only increased his ownership by like less than half a
point
percent or something like that.
yeah, like point no, it was point 0.6 something or something, I think.
Okay, yeah, 0.6% or something like that. I remember it was hovering around half a percent. And and right before the cut shares beyond that Friday close of day, then those shares don't count towards voting for whatever's in the proxy, right? So
Yeah.
I think it was Alexander Mertz. At least that's where I heard it from. That she said that after the research she had done, Elon can actually utilize those shares when voting for his compensation package, right?
Yeah.
So I
And
think that's reassuring. Go ahead.
I think she was freaking out because she thought like institutions were like buying it up so they can vote no.
That is interesting, actually. That is interesting.
And then they
But that's
also
the thing
talked.
is like, go
Go
ahead.
ahead, go ahead. They
No, I was just
also
gonna say,
talked.
I feel like
Oh,
this time you go. I promise you go.
okay. I also
Uh,
think that it was interesting because it shows that it wasn't institutions, and the reason I say that is because after Elon bought his and it went up, the amount of people that took profits is so low that I was just like, oh, okay, so it got bought up, and technically now you can sell them and still be able to vote. Like
yeah,
you still have your setup or whatever right before the proxy, and then you can vote whatever, and then sell your stocks like right after the date. But because
yeah,
it showed today that we literally went up even more from yesterday, it showed that like, oh, okay, so institutions weren't buying it up, and they're still in the same boat. Elon is definitely going to end up voting for his own compensation package because, again, anywhere his mouth is, and he's actually doing what he said he's going to do, and his confidence level is clearly super high, and it shows, and everyone feels it right now. Everyone on X is feeling it.
yeah, yeah. I agree, and I think it just comes to show several things, right? That Elon, fiscally speaking, he's like in a good spot financially. I think I had heard that he's like no longer in debt. He's no longer in margin. Is the speculation? And so I think financially speaking, he seems to be in good shape. And then now that he's kind of dropping a billion in Tesla stock, like we talked about in the green room, he's the best asset allocator, the best capital allocator that we know of. And so he's not going to put his money, especially $1 billion. I mean, that's not chump change, even to him. $1 billion is pretty material.
Yeah.
So he's not going to put his money where he's not going to make a reasonable expectation of getting a return back, right? So I think personally, he's probably expecting at least the 2 to 3x that, and that might be even somewhat conservative. Obviously, not financial advice, but I would imagine if he's putting $1 billion into something, he might at least double it over the next few years, at least. Knock on wood.
Yeah. I think again, everyone sees how bullish he's being, and everyone sees what the future might hold for everyone. I think it's such an interesting time that everyone's just throwing out their price targets right now, which is kind of cool. Seeing everyone usually does that, but I think right now it's an extreme version of that. And
Yeah,
it's interesting to watch everyone talk about like their end of year, and then like what happens in 10 years, and then some people are going all the way to like 2045 and then beyond.
yeah,
Hearing all of them, they all sound like Warren right now. And like and like the funniest part is that like I feel like Warren has always been the like most craziest bull that I've ever heard.
oh,
Yeah, and I feel like there needs to be a giga. No, what's after like he's just so out there with his predictions, and I'm always like I'm rooting for his predictions. Like I don't
of
mind his
course, yeah,
predictions, but it still makes me feel like I'm crazy if I'm actually about it. And I think hearing it from other people say some pretty wide numbers, like someone put out $300 trillion valuation, and that by itself is just mind blowing. At that point, I'm
yeah.
assuming we hit abundance. I think,
I think well before that for sure.
yeah. It's just people would be at like if you own maybe 1,000, you would be over $100,000 at $300 trillion. You'd be over
We're talking about for
a
sure.
hundred million, yeah, $100 million easily. Like that. That's not.
That's
That's
crazy.
not. That's not chump change. That's if we're still in the world of non-abundance, that is generational wealth for a long time coming. Like even if you get like one kid that just destroys your wealth, it'll still pass down a few million to the next one.
Yeah, and that's the thing too is at what point do we kind of pass the intersection of there's you get to that 300 trillion, you reasonably expect sustainable abundance for everyone, and then at that point I feel like capitalism is so disrupted by artificial intelligence that yeah, really the definition of money is what if everything you need is provided for, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
um
we're gonna be the old people that would say like, oh, you'd have to pay for that back then.
yeah, yeah, 100%. It's just, but that's the thing too, we look back at things we used to pay for that we don't now. I think a couple episodes ago we talked about how my parents used to go to a 7-Eleven or a liquor store, and they would buy like a card that has credits on it so you can call internationally.
Yeah,
Now we just FaceTime anytime, any place. We can
yeah,
just FaceTime, and for the most part, as long as you have internet connection, even Wi-Fi, you can go to a Starbucks, not even really buy anything, and you can still connect to their Wi-Fi. And so, once we get the infrastructure all built out for connectivity, for energy, for artificial intelligence, like at that point, I think that's when we actually start seeing the abundance.
yeah,
We have
yeah.
sustainable everything.
I think, and the thing you just said about going to Starbucks. There is homeless people who have Facebook accounts who use
Yeah, they have
Venmo.
smartphones.
Yeah, who use smartphones, use Venmo, use like they stay in contact with each other. Like
Yeah,
the whole thing about me walking down the street and going like, "Oh, I don't have cash," and then they're like, "I accept Venmo." I was like, "Oh, okay." Like, you got me
yeah,
there.
that is
Checkmate, got it.
interesting.
My bad.
Yeah,
But like that by itself is like the future is so amazing in the sense that anyone can even like in the US, anyone can
yeah,
touch technology. Like
yeah.
if you really think about it, you can get out of any situation because you have a smartphone. You can do something with it. Like there is something you can do.
That is
Whatever
that is what's crazy.
that might be. But in the future, I'm sure the homeless people will like have like homeless at the time, like probably not even like there will be no homeless. Like people are just gonna go technically do and have whatever they want.
That's what I hope, that eventually, those that are less fortunate and they don't have a home, I'm hoping that with this sustainable abundance that we're all kind of striving for, that we actually build just more
Yeah.
shelter for everybody, and shelter that has free energy because it's powered by the sun and stored in batteries as free energy. It has free water. Somehow, some way we can with the expansion of artificial intelligence and energy, we can find a way to very economically desalinate salt water and just have an abundance of water. And then, of course, food. Harvesting will be automated in every way, shape, and form. And so that will also kind of provide free
sustenance, just free food.
And
And at
my
that
favorite,
point, yeah,
and my
yeah,
favorite, free air conditioning.
free AC, and the connectivity should be free for the most part. We're kind of seeing some kind of remnants of it already in the sense of Starlink connecting the most remote, the most poor places of developing countries, like developing countries in Africa, developing countries in South America, Middle East, whatever it is. Like we're seeing them connected at a very economical price already.
Yeah, yeah,
And so you'll have connectivity, you'll have energy, you'll have food, you'll have shelter, like all those things. The expectation is that they will be economically created and economically distributed in a way that benefits everybody. And so, yeah, if it doesn't cost much to create, then yeah, I think in theory, most, if not everyone should benefit from that, right? So
yep.
I really hope that's the case.
Yeah, me too. I think again it's gonna be a very interesting time. And it's gonna take again, we've talked about it and we talked about it in the green room, but I think in the beginning it's going to be I really believe it's gonna have to have over like 5 million robots in the at least in the world generally working.
Yep.
Because people are gonna buy robots and that's okay. But working robots, that's where it's gonna be where it needs that's where it needs to blow up first for abundance generally. Because me buying a robot doesn't make my house abundant. Like it just won't change anything other than the fact that like I'll have more time on my hands because I don't have to do laundry or walk the dog or whatever other random things I'm gonna make it do. But
Yeah.
but once the factories have multiple robots, up to 5 million, maybe even more, then it'll be extremely cheap because it it won't cost the company that much to keep that robot running after like a year or two of it being there.
I do wonder. For example, you have all these robot companies, right? You got your Figures of the World, who supposedly, I think Brett Adcock came out today and he was like, "Hey, we're valued at what was it, like 37 billion or something like that." I forgot the number.
Hmm.
I do wonder just the durability of these robots because
Mm,
I mean, you're talking about something that you're gonna hopefully have working at least 85% of the day. The other 15% is charging or whatever, but that's what you're going to need to get down. In the first few years, we're not really going to have a good sense of the longevity of it until those first few years. Kind of like with batteries and EVs, right? It's like, hey, what is the lifespan of a battery? People still today have the misconception of hey, you got to replace your battery every few years, and that costs almost as much as buying a new car or whatever, which is
yeah,
obviously not the case.
yeah.
And so nowadays you actually have batteries that are lasting, 250K miles plus, and
Hmm.
without needing to replace it. Again, it all stems back to we need to see the evidence. We need to see the long history of batteries lasting, 15 plus years or whatever, right? Like it hasn't been that long since the Model S came out. It's been 15 years. And so now we're actually starting to get the sense of, okay, how long does the battery last in a chemistry that is 15 years old? Now the chemistries that are built today are much more advanced, much more robust. And so you expect, okay, maybe we get double the lifespan, triple the lifespan. I don't know. I'm no expert, but I would imagine that to be the case. And so same thing with like actuators and all these different components that are going to go into a humanoid robot. How long can we reasonably expect them to last? Because
Yeah.
we won't know until they last, So that'll be interesting. That'll be interesting to see how that pans out. And of course, like you said, and I think, beating a dead horse here with everybody saying the same thing, but it really is going to take at least a decade plus before we start actually getting tangible evidence of how society is going to change meaningfully for everybody in the population over the next, call it quarter century, with humanoid robots really proliferating in society.
Hmm. And I think there's gonna be so much iterating for the actuators and how long. I do think there's a lot of people who are speculative about the whole actuator situation. I hope that they could solve it in less than 10 years wise because I feel like that's the mark that where we hit. That's where the prices of things I think will keep declining over time, but in 10 years,
Yeah,
we will see the big difference between what it is now to make something to what it is then. Especially
yeah,
if they're trying to hit 1 million robots in 5 to 10 years with his compensation package, I think it's gonna show like, okay, these robots only lasted this long in the beginning stages, and this is where we're at in like 10 years, and then all the other robot companies who are making the robots do backflips and crap like that, we'll see how like there's no point in some of that stuff. So in my head, it's like, okay, but can it like sit there and do the job for exactly what you said, like 80% of the time, and then like the 20
yeah.
get charged or whatever?
And
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and I think, going back to that little robot that, I think you're alluding to the one that, they kicked him down and then he got up really, really quick. Even that robot, I forgot who I was watching today, but they were talking about how, I think it was Herbert, but they were talking about, hey, okay, that's cool, that's impressive. But then now that the robot has kind of, quote unquote, gone into a fight with a human, how has it held up, so to speak? Like, are the actuators still fine? Like, can it still go another 5 years? Or is it scrap now? Like, do you scrap it and then just use it for parts? So
Mhm.
uh, so that's the thing is, I feel like it all boils down to how good not only are the actuators, but how good is the hand? Because I feel like anybody, for example, you look at Boston Dynamics, they've created a robot, I don't know, 15 years ago or whatever, like the one that you see on videos today that,
Yep.
yeah, it's pretty impressive what it can do. But one, can you build it at a mass scale? And two, how useful is it? Like how much value can it add to any organization, any sort of manufacturing facility? I doubt that it can add much. Like I don't see a lot of Boston Dynamic robots in factories. And so
Yep.
I feel like that's the solution that Tesla wants to get to, that Elon wants to get to, is Optimus will be able to do just about everything that a human can do. Now, of course, there are much more advanced things that people can do. At some point, is it going to be able to do origami? Maybe, if that is the case, cool. Can it thread a needle? Elon says it will eventually. But I think that kind of finesse of the fingers and everything that a hand can do, I think that's what ultimately will differentiate the robot makers that are really pedal to the metal. And then two, can they mass produce these things? So those are the two kind of elements that I think will really differentiate a company that will really make a material impact to production, factories, all that good stuff.
And I think Optimus 3 is going to really push that envelope.
Yeah.
The fact that they slowed it down and didn't release Optimus 2 shows that, look, we would love to start showing off Optimus and selling it to people, but Optimus 3 is going to be so much better than Optimus 2 that
Yeah.
this is the product that we actually want to give out, and then test this one out. And then Optimus 4 will be
Yep.
better. And that's the thing about, again, Tesla just iterates so hard when it comes to all of their products, and Elon just forces all his companies to do it and simplify and make it better, make it stronger, make it last longer, and
Yep.
everything else. So I think that version 3 is already we will never know how like version 2 was, but it's definitely going to be better than version 2 in the sense that I'm
Yeah.
sure he's making it easier to mass produce. He's also making it probably a little more durable, and he's also making it harder for the other companies to go and copy the company's things, because I think was it Xpeng or something? I was watching one of the Chinese companies, and
Yeah.
their robot looked very similar to Optimus. Like, and they were
Oh,
doing
really?
very,
I haven't seen
yeah.
that.
They had like he like, it was making coffee or something, and it looked great. Don't get me wrong, but it's just one of those things where it's like, oh, just another company who's like completely copied Tesla.
Yeah.
And again, it's, can they mass produce that? Like, that's cool that your robot can do that, but it's just like those cars where they had like the crazy looking wheels and they morph and they change and they like adapt to the ground or whatever. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
why don't we have those already then? Why? Because you can only
Right.
make the one or five or whatever to show off. But then after that, it's
Yeah.
not feasible for you to make a bunch of them. But Tesla doesn't do that. And it's
Yeah.
not like they don't have a track record of doing exactly that. It's like every single time, even with, and I don't know if I've said this before, but even between like January to now, whatever car was released in January, it already has been a little bit better now than it was in January, because they
Yes.
constantly are
Yep.
changing things and making things better. Are they telling you, oh, this is the new model 2025, mid 2025? Like, no, they're not. They're just like,
Right.
oh, the seats, the buttons on the seats were acting up. Let's change that, make them sturdier, make them stronger, and make it easier to produce. Done.
Yep. Yep.
And that
Exactly.
by
I
its
think they just
that
constantly iterate.
yeah, and I think that's gonna happen, and we're gonna get to watch that in real time when it comes to the robots. I can't wait for Optimus to come out. If I have the money, I'm gonna buy my mom one, because I know how she is tired of cleaning the house, and I get it. And she's a hard working lady, so she deserves one. Again, it's one of those things that I'm just like, those things are gonna. If I have the money, I'm going to gift those to people that I know need them. Like,
Yeah.
I think that if we get to that point where Tesla stock just blows up and all this stuff, I'm definitely gonna be like, all right, well, hook up my family with things that they need. Let's do this, because
Yeah.
that's the goal.
And I hate to rain on the parade. I just wonder when would just any customer be able to purchase an Optimus? I feel like there's so much demand in every factory these days
Yeah.
that it might be a hot minute before just a normal consumer would be able to purchase an Optimus. You know what I mean?
Yes. And maybe even once we get like to 500,000, or maybe even the million, after the million, then we could start buying them. And the reason
Yeah.
I think that is because we sell 1 million plus cars a year nowadays, like Tesla does. And
Yeah.
I remember
Something familiar.
being, I remember talking to my mentor and going, they're gonna sell 500,000 cars this year, and he would tell me, no, they're not. And I said, you want to, like, it's gonna happen, and we made like a small bet about it, and it happened, and I was just like, I wish I would have bet like higher and like put. And I'm not a betting man. I'm not like one to bet, but I already, like, I was so gung ho about this, and that's the thing about me. It's like, I'm not betting unless I'm almost guaranteed. Like, it has to
Yeah.
be 99% like for sure. And that's why I'm so crazy about some of this stuff. And like people will be like, "Oh, you're not a betting man or whatever, but you own stocks." And I'm like, "Yes, but that's because I believe so wholeheartedly in this. And if it doesn't come true, then it just means that everyone else doesn't benefit from the fact that I was wrong. Like if I'm
Yeah.
wrong, you don't get to benefit from any of the things I just said. Like how much would that suck for everyone?"
Yeah.
Like that would suck. That would suck for so many people who really need all of these things to go down. I would hate to be wrong, but we'll see.
Well, I mean, if anything, Elon reassured us this
Yeah.
week, yesterday, that he thinks he's right. He's willing to put $1 billion down to kind of prove it. You know, I'm very excited for the next few years. Like come 2030, society is going to look vastly different. And I do believe, like Joe Bacti has been saying this for a few months now, that white collar jobs will be massively displaced in the short to medium term. He actually thinks in the short term. He actually thinks next year, I think is what he says. I don't know if I agree with next year. Maybe just generally speaking, you're kind of already seeing it now with like new grads having difficulty finding a job, or people who are quitting the jobs and having trouble finding a new job, stuff like that. Like you're already kind of seeing it, because it's like, I know a lot of boardrooms are thinking to themselves, hey, before we actually accelerate hiring, let's actually, and I think this was Spotify and maybe a couple other companies, they're saying, let's actually see if AI can do what the job description is first before we actually go out and hire a human,
Wow.
and so I don't know why that kind of excites me a little bit, in the sense of, okay, yeah, unfortunately, you know, I have to be sensitive to the fact that this will impact human labor, including
Yeah.
myself. Like I'm included in that statistic.
Yeah.
But I hope that something greater comes from it. Yeah, people mostly say, hey, whenever a new technology came out, it just created new, better jobs for people. Kind of like the industrial revolution was what replaced human strength, and the AI revolution will be what replaces human intelligence. And once you replace human intelligence, there's nothing else beyond that, right? Is one take, is that human intelligence is kind of like the only sort of bread and butter that humans have left. Once you take that
Hmm.
away with something that has super intelligence, what do we have to offer? And that could be the case. That could be the case that, yeah, maybe we don't have to offer anything, but we can still live out our lives. Like if you think of animals in the forests, like they're still living out their lives, enjoying the fruits of the land, right?
Yeah.
And I hope that kind of conceptually is what happens to the human race, is that once there is a super intelligence that effectively kind of manages the planet, I hope that we can kind of get back to nature, get back to just living off the fruit of the land, because of what that artificial intelligence has enabled, the artificial general and super intelligence. And so, and I hope that it brings more good than it does harm. I think it will still be hectic. I think it will still be, anxiety inducing for many people, that
Yeah.
as we go through this transition, it's not going to be a smooth transition by any stretch of the imagination, but it will be. I think once we get out on the other end, it will be mostly beneficial for mostly everybody. Um,
I think it'll vary. I think it'll be very painful in the beginning because of all the
yes.
job losses for sure. And I think, I don't know if I've said this before here, but I think that the industrial revolution and the internet is happening all at once currently. Like it
Hmm.
is happening all at once, where they're figuring out labor, and they're figuring out how to get information from one point to another, and really fast.
Yeah.
It's happening all at once, and I think a lot of people are not. Some people are not seeing it, which is what scares me more than the fact that we see it. And
Yeah.
I didn't have to read an article to think, oh, this is what's happening. I just
Right.
thought, yeah, no duh. Like, of course. Like as soon as I understood what ChatGPT was, I didn't say anything to anyone for a while, because I was playing with it, and I was just like asking it questions, saying like what it will do.
Hmm.
And I remember once my colleagues figured out, which was like maybe 5 to 4 months after I was already tinkering with it, the
Yeah.
first thing I thought was English is over and math is gonna have a hard time, and then coding is gonna have a hard time. And it's very easy to come to the conclusion of all of these jobs are just gonna be displaced. All these things that we put so much value into are gonna be displaced.
Yep.
Exactly what you said. I think it's so interesting to think that there's not enough fruit trees just randomly hanging around town.
Yep.
It's not. It's interesting to think that there's not a lot of like random vegetables being planted randomly
Yeah.
around town. Like I think in the world of abundance, everything will just you can just walk down the street and just grab what you want. You can walk down
Yep.
to the store and pick up whatever. You're not even stealing. It's just there because it's like these. It's gonna be really odd, and I don't know what we're going to pay for. I think travel and movement maybe, and maybe like I think that the tough part is gonna be for people are gonna gravitate to such peaceful areas, like kind of like when I love going to Tahoe. Like Tahoe is amazing. I love it there. And I feel like those places are gonna get so packed. It's gonna get
Yeah.
so wild to think that people are just gonna go like in droves to these beautiful areas because
Yep.
they don't have to worry about having to pay for things. Like
Right.
That's going to be such an interesting time. And maybe California is going to get even more packed because of the fact that it's just so nice out here. Like, what?
Yeah. So many beautiful spots.
You don't have to bite the bullet to go to like Arizona and live there because it's super burning hot, but it's cheap.
Yeah.
Like, it's nice and cheap, and like it's easier to afford things. But and then California is expensive. But in the future, when California is not expensive anymore, that's gonna be really
I
tough.
hope so.
Like
Yeah.
right, like that's the what if situation. And like a lot of these really nice places around the world are gonna be just extremely just cheap to be, or not at all. Where in my mind, for us who have been here and talking about it so early on, I feel like I told Andrea, I was like, I want to buy like multiple locations around the world that I really enjoy being around. And the reason I say
Mhm.
that is because in that scenario, I want to be there before the crowd comes. I want to be there and enjoy the moment and the situation with my family
Yeah.
as much as possible. And then once the abundance comes, we will see how the world is going to get terraformed by humans and like people
Yeah.
in locations. The crappy locations, no one's going to want to be there. No one's going to want to go.
Yeah. I agree.
It's going to be such an interesting time, and I think it's so cool to be alive right now, to be able to see all of
Yeah.
this. And again, we're going to be the old folks being like, we paid for that.
I know. That's I think about that nowadays is when we have our grandchildren, just like I think of grandparents now and them using smartphones. And they're like, wow, this is cool. Like we barely could afford a landline back in the, 70s or whatever, right?
Hmm.
And now they're like, oh yeah, we just FaceTime everywhere. And so I think about, okay, when we have grandkids, we're talking about like 50 years from now, right? What the heck is the world gonna look like? Or maybe not 50 years, more like 30 years. What the heck is the world gonna look like even in 30 years, even in 10 years? I can't fathom it. I can't fathom
I
it.
don't I don't have kids yet, but I know my nieces aren't going to drive.
Yeah, that's
Like,
for sure.
I know I'm going to teach my oldest niece how to drive this next year or something, and then
Never again.
I'm just gonna tell her like, hey, you're not even gonna use this,
Yeah.
but let's just do it anyways. Like, let's just
Yeah.
have a good time and let's teach you how to drive. But at the end of the day, your sisters are never gonna learn.
Yeah.
You're never
They're
gonna
not
have
gonna need
to.
to.
No,
Yeah.
and it's over. Like driving will be in 5 years. Everyone's just gonna be like 5 to 10 years. People are gonna be saying, "Oh, I remember when we all used to drive."
When we used to drive missiles around.
Yeah, and I've said that to my dad, and he goes, "You really think they're gonna just not let us drive?" And I go, "It's not gonna be like it's not that rough, but it is gonna be saying that you're a hazard to the road because all the cars are talking to themselves and they know what they're doing and they're not going to
Yeah.
crash comparable to you." And
Yeah.
older people who are on the road love the old folks, but the issue is that they're getting older, their senses are getting dimmer, and things
Yeah.
are happening when they're on the road. Those are
Yep.
going to be probably the first like few rules once FSD starts really taking over. They're going to be like, at this age lower, no driving, and maybe it'll keep going till it's like, hey, teenagers and old folks can't drive, and then it'll be like
Yeah.
squishing to like to the 30-year-olds or whatever, and they're like, all right,
Yeah.
you're the only ones that are allowed to drive, but other than that, your senses
Yeah,
are sharp
yeah, yeah.
currently, and then after that, it's
Uh,
over. Like no more driving for any of you, and then eventually it's gonna be completely gone.
Yeah.
And we'll have like little race like ways or whatever, and drive all our old timey Teslas on them, and get to drift them on that, and then that's it. No, don't get out of there, because otherwise,
Yeah.
if you're moving out of there, you're back on FSD.
Oh yeah. 100%.
That's
100%.
that's the craziest part. Like that's what's gonna end up happening. And when I talk to some people who are car people, they're just like look at me like I'm crazy. Like no, that's never gonna happen. I love my car. I'm gonna keep my
Yeah.
car forever. And I'm like, okay, that's cool, man. Like I'm not telling you to throw it away.
They very well should and can. It's
Yeah.
it's not the current generation, but I think it's more so the younger generation, the Gen Z, the Gen Alphas, and how they're right now their ambition is not to buy a car. I think that's just the case. Like my younger brother, I think he's technically Gen Z. He's all about Uber Eats. Like he won't even go to no fast food restaurant. He won't go through a drive-through. He'll gladly pay a tip, a fee, and all that stuff. He'll pay 50% extra for whatever the food costs, just
Trips me
so
out.
it gets brought to his door.
That trips me
And
out.
isn't it crazy? And I'm thinking, dude, especially because all those fees and tips add up, right, over time.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking to myself, okay, if that is the mentality of the younger generation, game set match, they absolutely will 100% use Robotaxi. They're already willing to get into a car with a stranger any time of the day, just so that they don't have to drive.
That's old people.
And
They're like,
so-
I'm not getting in that.
Yeah,
Like,
so
no.
I think it's definitely not going to be the boomers, maybe the millennials. I would say 50% of the millennials, maybe at least, like you and me, and then the Gen Z, Gen Alphas. I think for sure they'll adopt it without a doubt. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, I don't have to buy a car, I don't have to pay insurance, I don't have to buy gas, I don't have to go to the mechanic, I don't have to do that. I'm definitely using Robotaxi every day. So
Yeah.
so it's a generational thing. Then it is kind of like, okay, maybe in the next few years, it's going to be more of a generational timeline than it is 5 to 10 years, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And so yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway.
that's true.
That was a good one, man. I feel like when we get into like these deep sort of like conceptual philosophical thoughts, it's like you can really go deep down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, and again, who knows what's gonna happen? We don't know like the way it's gonna go, but we know ballpark. Like this is the general idea, and at the end, it might look like this.
Yeah. Yep. We can only speculate now. I feel like nobody really knows exactly how it'll pan out. It's just so hard to tell. Like we can
Yeah,
barely tell what the next 12 months are going to look like with AI
yeah.
now. So I really don't know.
I
I
just
do
hope
look
it's
back a
not
lot
that
too.
painful.
That's the biggest thing, is just hoping it's not painful. So, because I do look back to like November 2022. That's when they released ChatGPT. We're almost 3 years. Crazy. We're almost 3 years since ChatGPT came out.
There's one.
Wow, crazy. So anyway, I look back
Yeah.
to November 2022, almost 3 years now, and so much has changed. So much has changed, and we probably don't see it like on a day-to-day basis. But for example, I experience it every day. My car literally drives me to and from work every single day, and I never touch the wheel. I only do it to park the car at home and at work.
Hmm.
And with V14 coming out, we didn't even talk about V14, but I think we'll definitely talk about it next week. I'm sure we'll probably get some more clarity on what that's going to look like. Maybe, hopefully,
Yeah.
since it's supposed to come out at the end of the month. Uh, with V14, I feel like that's going to be the game changer for everybody, where robotaxi will be unleashed with V14. I think that's
Hmm.
when you potentially start really getting close to removing the safety monitor
Hmm.
from the cars. And then with each point release, as we talked about, I think we said it a couple weeks ago, where each point release is really gonna make the car feel more sentient, right? So
Yep.
I think it's just a matter of time
I think
before.
Elon is so bullish about that too. He feels like nobody's gonna be in the car by the end of the year, and I hope that he's right. I hope he's right on that. Again, it's Elon, so who knows?
It's Elon, it's regulation.
That too. That too.
I I would definitely take it with several grains of salt. It's just too the regulation is just too clunky. It's too much
There
red
was
tape. And
regulation in some country where they did not allow Uber. I forgot what it was. Was it a country?
yeah,
I forgot what country it was, but they hyper regulated it to the point where like there's no Ubers. Like you have
yeah,
to take a taxi. Again, I
yeah,
think those places will have a tough time not have like being forced to do the Tesla stuff. But I think it's going to be one of those things where when you see society flourishing, regardless, you're going to want that for your people. Like
yep,
if you deny that for your people, then your people will revolt. Like they will not be okay with it.
yeah. I agree. Especially because
So,
you're talking about like eco, inexpensive transportation.
hmm
Why are you rejecting that for your people?
hmm
So yeah, we'll see. I think a
I
lot
think
of work still needs to be
regulations.
done on that front.
Yeah, I think regulations will hold a lot of places, but once, let's say regulations in let's say Texas and Florida are like loose on the regulations and they allow a lot of the stuff, a lot of FSD. Once
Mhm.
those places get impacted, the rest of the US is going to be like, hands off. You know what? There's nothing we can do. Regardless, I know all these states want to like not have Teslas there, blah blah blah, but we're gonna have to allow them here because look at the financials. Like look at the financials in the last year or whatever of that place or 2 years or whatever,
Yeah,
and it'll show. Like it'll be so tough. That I think that's where like the regulations will get like they'll give up. There won't be. It'll be hard for them to do that. But that's in the worst scenario of them being so rough to the point where they don't allow robotaxi in their states.
yeah. And this will be the last thing I say here, but like I think once you start getting those few cities that have unleashed robotaxi in the entire province, call it, I think once they start seeing the tax revenue that comes in, not only from the tax that robotaxi pays to whatever jurisdiction, but also because people are going to think, oh, I can go to all these different places, not have to drive myself. I can just do wherever I want to do and not worry about how much I have to pay for transportation, for gas, for all that stuff, for insurance. They're going to see just revenue for taxes go up everywhere in consuming food and consuming entertainment and consuming obviously alcohol, because people are gonna be like, hey, I can drink and not have to
Hmm.
drive, but I still can get
Hmm.
home. And
Yep.
so and then of course schools and all that stuff. So you're gonna see, because transportation being so low, people are gonna be willing to spend more elsewhere, and they're gonna see tax revenue go up in other areas rather than people having to spend that money on just gas or insurance. So I think overall it's gonna be a net benefit to an economy, any economy. Um, Including from a tax benefit perspective, for tax revenue coming in to hopefully provide for goods and services that are provided for whatever jurisdiction.
Yep.
So yeah,
Yeah. It's crazy times. We'll see what
crazy
happens.
times, man. Yeah,
Hey.
I feel like yeah, 421, 42069.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's we'll see. It's been actually, even though it's only Tuesday, it's been reassuring to see how the stock is staying around this range. Because like I said, I feel like once we get some sort of breakout, the algos are like, hey, sell, lock in the profits. And then we kind of fall right back to, minus 5, 10% or whatever. But now we've actually sustained that 420-ish over the last,
Hmm. Hmm.
two closing days. So we'll see if that sticks tomorrow, especially with, how much of a rate cut do we get tomorrow? Is it 25 basis points? Is it actually 50? Is it nothing? So we'll see. I think for sure it's going to be 25%. 25 basis points. So we'll see if that not 25%, yeah, 25 basis points. So we'll see if that sticks. If it's 50, then I think we're off to the races.
I'm hoping that they do a good amount of rate cuts because I'm trying to buy a house eventually.
Yeah,
It's hard out here in
yeah,
California.
definitely here in Cali. And don't forget about the property tax, man. Property tax is the worst, and homeowners insurance. Homeowners insurance is terrible here in Cali now. So I don't know, man. I definitely, do your own math, but like the troubles that I've had with homeowners insurance is ridiculous. And even if you find homeowners insurance, expensive as heck. So anyway, but that's a rant for another. All right, man. Well, definitely always good chatting. Yeah, looking forward to the
Later.
rest of this week. We'll see what
Yeah.
more surprises Elon has for us.
Yeah, I can't wait for us to get together next week and see what happens in the market because that rate cut's gonna definitely shake things up.
Yeah.
If
Yeah, we'll see. Like right now we're at 420. We'll see
Yeah.
where we are next week. If,
Yeah.
if we get the beneficial rate cuts.
hey, if we get to two somethings because of some crazy thing, like they don't do any rate cuts, everything sinks to like the ground. Hey,
Hey,
I
we're
I
buying.
have I have a little bit of powder. I'm ready, and I'm gonna try
Yep.
and convince my wife if I can sell some organs so I can buy
Sell some
more.
organs. That's the way to do it, man. That's the way to do it. I'll go work a part-time job as a barista or something to get some more cash.
Exactly. I'll wear short shorts and everything if they need me to.
Oh man. All right,
Later.
man. Cool. Well, have a good night, and we'll looking forward to our next one.
Sounds good. Later.
See ya. Bye.
See ya.